The betting lines have the Mavericks about 2.5 to 1 underdogs. Phoenix has been a juggernaut this year. Do you think that is about an accurate take on the Mavs' chances heading into this series?
You know what's very interesting? When I saw the opening betting lines, the Mavs were even a more significant underdog, and plus 3 or more to 1. And I said it's going to be a much closer series than that. I do think Phoenix is going to win the series. I'm obviously probably pretty biased, given that when I was GM of the team, we brought in Devin Booker, Mikhail and Deandre Ayton, 3 of their 5 starters. So I want to see those guys do well. They've been the best team in the league, but I think this is going to be a close, hard-fought series, and I think the Mavs are one of the most improved teams in the league in season, right up there with the Boston Celtics in terms of their turnaround. So, spoiler alert, I'm going to go with the Suns to win the series, but I think this one goes 6 or 7, and the Mavs certainly have a chance to pull off the upset.
So I know John Morant got most improved player, and I'm not disputing that, but here in Dallas, do people know in Phoenix how much better throughout this season Dorian Finney-Smith and Jalen Brunson have gotten?
I think so. I mean, certainly people who follow the NBA closely know how good those guys have been and what they've done. The shooting improvement with Finney-Smith has been remarkable to me. He had a reputation in college as an athlete, a defender, but to watch him make open shot after open shot consistently with and without Luka Doncic. I mean, these aren't all wide open shots teed up by the great Luka Doncic. He's really improved on that end. I love the contract the Mavs haven't locked in on. And then, Jalen Brunson, one of the best second-round picks in recent NBA history. He has been phenomenal. I imagine the Mavs wish they had him under contract for longer in terms of an extension or with a restricted tag. But to me, he's been one of the breakout performers in the playoffs. And, I said it on one of the other Audacy shows this morning, guys. I'll reiterate it. I think Jalen Brunson, in 2 months as a free agent, is going to get north of $100 million in free agency.
Okay, you need to stop that right now. we got to figure out how to keep him around here. I'm very curious on the Devin Booker front. The injury, your understanding of how is he back? Is he that guy, or is it going to kind of hamper him? But also, we got to see him finally on that stage last year. It took a while for Phoenix to get to that point, but you finally got to see him. What is the best way to stop him? And do the Mavericks have a defender that can actually kind of slow him some more?
It's really difficult to stop Devin. I think we saw that not only in the run to the finals last year where he played terrific, but also in the first series against New Orleans. I think it was the game he got hurt, guys. He had 31 points in the first half. So he's very explosive. And the challenge with Phoenix is with him and Chris Paul in the backcourt, who do you load up on? Who do you give your defensive attention to? Especially given that Dallas's perimeter talent is really good, and I think that's pretty close in terms of perimeter versus perimeter. I think the Suns' advantage in the series is inside with Ayton and McGee, especially Ayton at center. But so for Dallas, I expect rotating defenders, coming at Booker. I think some combination of Finney-Smith, Bullock. Guys like that. I don't think they'll probably put Josh Green on him, but potentially, and then maybe get physical with him with Brunson. But it's a tall order for the Mavs because, again, you can't just load up on Devin Booker. If you do that, you let Chris Paul pick you apart as a secondary playmaker, and then they have the inside threat with Ayton. So that's why Phoenix is so good. I think they're the most balanced team in the league, and I think the way the Mavs win the series is if the perimeter guys have a slight advantage against the great Suns backcourt, and then the front court kind of holds their own and tries to limit Ayton and McGee, Ayton in particular inside. There is a path to do that for Dallas. I can see that happening, but it's going to be difficult given how talented and balanced the Suns roster is.
Do you ever feel like Ayton gets kind of overlooked in the hierarchy of the NBA because he was in the same draft class and he's not Luka? Like sometimes people describe what a failure it was because Luka's so great. Do you think people lose sight of he has been a very good player?
Well, certainly, yeah. I've taken my fair share of criticism for that and being involved in that process and decision. I guess my response to that is Luka is a great player. He's an all-time great player. He's going to go down as one of the best players, certainly one of the best offensive players in the history of the league. But that doesn't mean Deandre Ayton's not a terrific player in his own right. And I think the thing with Deandre that people overlook is kind of the totality of his game when it comes to scoring and scoring efficiently. In fact, if you look at the guys who have averaged 20 points, 10 rebounds, and made 60 or even 70+% of their field goals in NBA history, there aren't many. In fact, he might be the only one. So he scores, he rebounds, he defends, he does it efficiently. He can block some shots as well. So I think that's the underrated element of Deandre. And, obviously it was a difficult decision when I was in the Suns front office. We had Devin Booker on the perimeter. Later on in the 2018 draft, we ended up trading for Mikhail Bridges, who you guys will see tonight and throughout the series. And we just thought Ayton was the best fit, or the combination of those three guys was the best long-term pairing. And I understand that people will take shots at that given the dominance of Luka, and I get that, and I live with that. But just because Luka is an all-time great talent doesn't mean Deandre Ayton is not going to be a terrific player as well. And, he helped lead the team to the finals last year, and they certainly have a good chance to get back and play for a championship again this season.
I don't know if you're the general manager at this time or if there is a conversation, but do you know who Vegas Bob is? Bob Voulgaris?
Yes, I do.
You can tell by that laugh.
All right, so he was doing a podcast this last week, and he said that he really liked Mikal Bridges, and a couple of people also did in the Mavericks organization, but he kind of reiterated that Donnie Nelson didn't. And he said that they had a conversation. I don't know if it ever got to you guys. Did they have a conversation of trying to trade you guys Dennis Smith Jr. for Bridges?
No. It never happened. And the issue I have with that, guys, I know the exact clip you're referring to was on The Ringer and the podcast with Bill Simmons and Bob Voulgaris, is people sent me that clip. And look, I don't really like to talk about, obviously what was discussed internally or whatnot, but I can say without equivocation as a fact, when I was general manager of the Phoenix Suns, and keep in mind on draft night in 2018, we did the deal with the Philadelphia 76ers to bring in Mikal Bridges for Zaire Smith and a future first-round pick. The conversation never happened, any conversation with the Phoenix Suns when I was GM from May of 2013 until October of 2018 about trading Mikal Bridges for Dennis Smith Jr. or trading anybody for Dennis Smith Jr. It never happened. It seems to me like those were internal Mavericks conversations. Obviously, I've never worked for the Mavs. I can't speak to what they did or didn't discuss. All I know is that between teams, with me as the GM of the Suns and Donnie Nelson as the president of the Mavs, or anybody else with the Mavericks, Mikal Bridges for Dennis Smith Jr. or anybody for Dennis Smith Jr. was never discussed in any form or fashion.
Well, there you go. Thank you for clarifying that and putting that out there. Bridges is a good player, man. He's something I think a lot of people are envious of whenever they see what they have in him. Where are you pinning him to make his most impact against the Mavs this series?
Definitely defensively on Luka, to see if he can slow down Luka at all. And we've seen what Luka can do in the playoffs, even a healthy Luka against a team that I thought may have the best combination of wing defenders in the NBA the past couple of years with the Dallas Mavericks, with Kawhi Leonard, especially when he's healthy, and Paul George. And, we've seen how Luka has shredded those guys and put up historically good numbers. So Bridges will have his work cut out for him. And Luka will score, rebound, get assists, make spectacular passes. That's all coming. And it was good to see the mutual respect that those two guys have had in the lead up to the series, Bridges, and the respect he has for the great Luka Doncic, and Luka, giving Mikal his props as a defender. Mikal was, again, full bias aside, or full bias disclosed. He was my pick for Defensive Player of the Year. He came in second in the voting, but his length, his intelligence, the way he uses angles and leverage is really impressive defensively. So he's going to try to frustrate Luka. I don't think the Suns really care if he scores much, if at all. Mikal Bridges did average 17 points in the first round series against New Orleans, but that's going to be his job and his role. And I'll be very interested to see if Monty Williams on the Suns sideline tries to match Bridges' minutes with Luka's minutes. Now, the Suns have other guys to throw at Luka. I think Jay Crowder will get an opportunity. We'll see if Devin Booker wants that challenge. Ayton sometimes, switches. But I think it'll be primarily Bridges against Luka Doncic. And you're talking about maybe the best individual offensive talent in the league and maybe the best individual defensive talent, certainly one of them in Bridges. So as Terrell Owens would say, get your popcorn ready. And I'm really looking forward to that matchup.
Is there any part of you, and I know we don't usually talk about this with you, and you're focused on modern and current NBA, and you could tell us about every series in the world. Is there any part of you that the way the Suns played out last year and the way they're playing out right now that kind of feels vindicated about all of the decisions that you made along the way?
Well, I appreciate that. What I will say is this, is for 7 years in a row, for me personally, we had winning seasons. My last 6 in the Celtics front office, 2007 to 2013, and then my first year in the Suns front office, we won. And then in the next season, we brought in Isaiah Thomas to go alongside Goran Dragic and Eric Bledsoe with the 3 point guards, which have, certainly was controversial. But we won again. We were winning again at 28 and 20. And I bring it up because we made a decision at that year's trade deadline in 2015 to rebuild, and it was brutal, suffering all those losses. But we just decided to load up on as much young talent and as many draft picks and cap flexibility and all those things that front offices and NBA junkies get excited about, but don't translate into winning basketball in the short term. And so, I think in some ways, guys, I mean, look, if I don't like talking about myself, but I've worked for 2 NBA franchises, the Boston Celtics and Phoenix Suns. I've contributed to both of those teams going to the NBA Finals and playing on the highest stage. So I do feel good about that. And I think it's important to remember that in the time period we did that, 2015 to 2018, my last 3 years with the Suns, Golden State had a historically good team. They were in our conference. They were in our division. So to load up on draft picks and young players, I realized that I probably wasn't going to get to see it through to the other side. But I think the goal with any job or anything in life is to leave the place better than you found it. And hopefully I did that when I was with the Phoenix Suns.